Now, you will have seen this in the papers over the weekend. It's been over the news. There have been 21 fatal knife attacks in the UK so far this year, with 8 of the victims aged 18 or younger. Now, this weekend alone, these two teenagers, 17-year-olds Jodie Chesney and Yousef Macky, became the latest to lose their lives. It's been reported that Jodie was fatally stabbed in the back as she sat on a park bench with her boyfriend in London, in what her family says was an unprovoked attack. And Yousef was stabbed to death in an affluent area of Manchester. 2 boys have been arrested on suspicion of murder. As this knife epidemic grips the nation, and we read headlines like this one here: anyone's street, anyone's child. We are all parents. Many of you sitting in the audience here today will be parents. We're the parents of sons. It's absolutely terrifying. What do we tell our children? How do we protect our children?
Well, it's so scary. I'm really struck by how often we now talk about this on the show, don't we? A couple of weeks ago, we had a big debate about it. I live in an area where there is so much knife crime, and I really do try and stay calm about it. But I can feel now this rising fear, a real panic, a real loss of control when you know, as to what can happen when my children are out. And Maddie had a whole group of friends over at the weekend, and one of her friends arrived a bit shaken. I didn't really know what was going on. I wasn't told anything, but Maddie told me a couple of days later, because actually he hadn't wanted any of the grown-ups to know. But on the way to our house, he and his friend were just walking along, doing nobody any harm, and these 2 guys came up to him and said, "Give us everything you've got." They were really scared and sort of froze, and these 2 guys pulled out a knife. Now, and I mean, they ran off, everything was fine, but I can't help but go to that place. My daughter goes to his house all the time. It's a good friend of hers. She could have easily have been walking down that street with them. Yes, I know that, you know, that it's still a relatively small number, but I'm finding it more and more difficult on a week-to-week basis as we get these stories, not to get really frightened. I mean, you've got older kids.
Yeah.
How have you coped? Because Maddie's just starting to go out on her own. You know, that freedom that I'm having to give her that I don't want to give her.
Well, here's the thing. As a parent, obviously, if I had my way, they'd be wrapped in bubble wrap, kept in a cupboard, and I'd let them out now and again.
They'd be nice and quiet then as well.
But you can't, that's the thing. And you know, the ones that keep me sane and keep me logical are actually my kids. Because when I'm going, oh yeah, but what if you go there and there's knives now and there's this, and they go, Mom, you've got to keep some logic, you know. Yeah. And I think as long as you keep talking about it and listening to what they've got to say as well, because they calm me down, because they're living in that society now. They're kind of growing up with it, you know. But it is that thing of, you know, I remember things like the Manchester bombings, you know, and straight away, you know, Kira was going to a concert there, like when it reopened, and I'm like, I don't want you to go, and she's like, Mum, it could happen. She's driving now. She said, you know, there's more chance of, God forbid, but there's more chance of something happening when I'm driving, or. So you kind of got to keep logic on it. But I think it's just a thing of, I don't know what the answer is anymore. I don't know, apart from worrying. The thing is, I used to worry when the boys were growing up. I used to worry when they went out, hope they don't get in a fight. But now, and that, you know, hope they don't come back with a black eye or broken up. Now it's, hope they don't get stabbed.
And boys always have to walk home on their own. They're not like my daughter. You've got a son as well, where I know my daughter can say to her, oh, I don't really want to go to the bus stop by myself. Can somebody... But boys can't do that because it's the boy thing. You've got to be all right. You've got to stride down the street like, well, you know, you're not afraid.
Exactly. Well, listening to you guys with older children, I mean, you talk about logic, but then as a parent of a 10-year-old, I look at figures like 39,000 knife offences in 2018, and it's up 10% from last year.
Already.
I hear about a 93% rise in the number of kids, you know, treated for stab wounds in the last 5 years. Those sort of figures, they're all on the rise. And I heard about these stabbings, and I am a mum that uses logic. I let my son go on a school bus, 7 years old, first one to go on. I said, Steve, let's let him go, he wants to go. But I phoned him up this morning. I said, Steve, I want you to pick Zach up today. And he's only 10. So I'm trying to, I don't want to wrap him up in cotton wool and
it's
put him in a
hard, though.
cupboard, but I find it quite distressing. And he's now living in this society where
Is he wanting to come home on his own
well,
now?
he does.
Has
He's
changed?
going to go to secondary school next year,
Yeah.
and I was going to say to him, because he's responsible, he's a nice boy, to say, let him come back, because it's a little bit of kind of independence. But it's a public school bus on the way back. But I don't think I'm going to let him. I think I'm going to go and pick him up because I am scared.
Yeah.
We